hear the most annoying sound in the world?
Welcome to Rage Against the Mainstream Podcast, your full spectrum source for all things music, insight, and opinion. My name is Bill, and I'm joined here with Connor and Steve.
Yo.
All right, so let's do a recap of last week. We discussed what would be the last good Metallica album by our opinions, and we had some agreements and we had some disagreements. So have you guys encountered anything new or interesting in the previous week? Anything new you've listened to?
I just got Fear of a Black Planet by Public Enemy. I'm enjoying that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and there's an 80s German thrash band called Exhumer. They just released a new album. It's really good.
Exhumer.
80s German thrash. Perfect.
The only thing I've encountered that was new or interesting to me was Disobey, the album from Bad Wolves. The ones that did that cover of Zombie.
Zombie, yep.
Yeah.
By Cranberries.
Really, really, really good cover.
All right, rest in peace, Dolores Dio Riordan.
Yeah.
Honest to God, I think that might be one of my top 5 favorite covers.
I don't know. I'm going to say Painkiller by Death.
Oh, well, that's
That's a
my
good
number
one.
one.
Actually, Black Diamond by The Replacements.
That's
is
a good
really
one.
Good.
That's my number 2.
That's
For me, it's just probably something off Nirvana Unplugged. Probably Plateau.
It's a really good cover. Actually, Where Did You Sleep Last Night is an excellent rendition of Lead Belly's original.
I agree. I 100%
No one would
agree.
argue with that, though. But anyway.
So, let's get into this reoccurring segment that we have that's called
On This Day in Music History.
We'll start off in 1956. Elvis Presley made his Las Vegas debut at the Frontier Hotel, which was a 2-week residency. Shows were poorly received by the conservative, middle-aged hotel guests, who described it as like a jug of corn liquor at a champagne party. That was in Newsweek. Amid his Vegas tenure, Presley, who had serious acting ambitions, signed a 7-year contract with Paramount Pictures. See, that's a little... I didn't realize Elvis was doing movies that early. I thought he didn't really start doing movies until, like, the late 60s, like, after washed up a little bit.
Well, I forget what his first movie was.
One was, like, Blue Hawaii or something.
I think that might have been number 1. Steve might check that out for us.
Elvis Presley's first movie that he appeared in was 1956. His first leading role was in 1957.
What movies were they?
The first movie was Love Me Tender. That was in 1956. And then Loving You was 57. And then Jailhouse Rock came out the same year in 57. But his first leading role was Loving You in 1957.
He was just rolling them out then.
Oh, yeah, dude. Dude, he had movies in 56, 57, 58, 60, 60, 61, 61, 62, 62. Yeah.
That's what
all the way to
musicians did
72,
back then.
man. Yeah.
Like, even the Beatles, they made fucking, like, 5 movies.
Yeah, I
fucking-
mean-
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Elvis Presley makes movies and goes on to be an active figure in the pop culture scene, and then, got Ronald Reagan becoming a president, Sometimes
Elvis
how
could have been
life works
next.
for you. Yeah, he could have.
He could have been next.
Hey, I would have voted for Elvis
there
in
was
the most recent election.
Hound Dog dropped in July 56, so it makes sense that by 57 he was starring in the movies.
Yeah. I was I was listening to Henry Rollins' podcast the other day, and he was talking stories and whatever, and he was talking about Elvis's bodyguard and the time they went to the White House, speaking of Elvis being the president.
Well, when he met with Nixon?
Yeah, and the Secret Service had to make room for Elvis's bodyguards. They're like, the Secret Service was like, we're protecting the president. And his bodyguards were like, yeah, well, we're protecting Elvis.
That's actually pretty cool.
Like, it just shows you how important and like how special Elvis Presley was.
Elvis didn't like the Beatles. Not that I really do either, but I heard a story where, like, when he went to the White House, that him and Nixon were, like, talking about the Beatles, and they were, like, mutually concerned about, like, their influence on America.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, the Beach Boys dropped the ball, I guess.
The Beatles went and hung out with him, I know, at some point, and they thought he was weird, pretty much like a weird old guy. Like, they thought he was going to be, like, friendly and down to party, and then he just kind of sat there and, like, drank and was like, yeah, this is all my stuff. Yeah, but all right, we'll move on to 1966, 10 years later. We have Wild Thing by the British band The Trogs was released in the U.S. It reached number 1 on the Hot 100 chart and number 2 on the UK singles chart. Their version was ranked 257 on the Rolling Stone magazine list of 500 greatest songs of all time, which has become maybe a definitive list since it's come out, like maybe 10 years ago. Like, I see that referenced a lot.
And like, you think about it, like number 257 on 500, like, you, over the span of music, you have 500 songs, and this is literally 257. Like, this shows, you know, how big of a song this really was and how important it was.
I always get that in Louie mixed up.
Oh yeah.
Similar guitar. But in 1969, 3 years later, John Lennon legally changed his middle name from Winston to Ono.
Oh no.
A little feminist move from John there to respect his wife, the famous Yoko Ono.
Yeah, the Nancy Spungen for the Beatles.
Also in 1969, The Who gave their first complete live performance of the rock opera Tommy at a show in Dalton, England.
How do you feel
wow.
about Tommy?
Not a fan, really.
Not a fan either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The sound of it is like thin. It's
Yeah.
really like not The Who's.
Well, it's really like
best
poppy.
sounding
If you compare
album.
to like Quadrophenia
And
Who's Next.
Pinball Wizard's probably
Oh
their
my-
dumbest single they ever made.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Like, and it.
The
and
vibe's just weird. I don't know. I'm not a giant fan of The Who to begin with, but
I'm not a giant fan. Like, I really like a lot of their stuff, but not a whole lot. 9 years later, Bob Marley and the Wailers in 1978 performed at the One Love Peace concert in Jamaica. It was Marley's first public appearance in Jamaica since being wounded in an assassination attempt a year and a half earlier.
Oh wow.
Near the end of the performance, by Marley's request, Michael Manley, leader of then ruling People's National Party, and his political rival Edward Seaga, leader of the opposing Jamaica Labour Party, joined each other on stage and shook hands.
That's actually really interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Like, I heard stories about like the assassination attempt and how big this concert really was, and you know, all of his guys were like, "We strongly against you playing this," and Bob Marley was like, "Absolutely not. I'm doing this."
Well, it's just interesting too. I mean, you think of the strength that music holds. I mean, here he is performing after, you know, an assassination attempt, and he's bringing two political parties that are total rivals at this point, and they're shaking hands on stage.
One love.
Like music, yeah. I mean, that's just shows to show you the strength of music sometimes.
Well, yeah, and that was, you know, in the 60s and 70s and 80s, that was like the peak of Cold War and decolonization and colonies of, you know, Europe and America, and Jamaica was probably going through some crazy shit at that time, I would guess.
Yeah.
I think I forget if the Rodney riots were in Jamaica, but I'm sure it was pretty tumultuous. It wasn't just the vacation getaway that it is today.
Absolutely not.
In 1985, 7 years later, Prince released the album Around the World in a Day. It was his first release after Purple Rain, which was obviously his massive album. It was like...
Purple Rain, Purple Rain.
Yeah, besides
some doves are crying
1999,
right
now.
that's an excellent album.
I'm not much of a singer.
Yeah, it had Raspberry Beret on it, which was a pretty big hit. Pop Life. Continued Prince's, you know, musical expansion. It showed he wasn't going to just make a Purple Rain 2. You know, he kept going in different directions.
Yeah, both those songs reached top 10 on the Billboard charts. I mean, at Beret reaching at 2, and then Pop Life reaching at number 7.
That's why Prince is God.
Yeah, he can do it all, man.
He's really fucking good at basketball, I'll tell you that.
Game.
We learned from the Chappelle Show.
Blouses. Would you guys like some grapes?
Why don't you wash your face in the waters of Lake Minnetonka?
In 1989, 4 years later, Guns N' Roses released Patience off of Lies, I think, right?
Well, it was actually that dual side album off of GNR Lies, because then the B side was all off of Live Like a Suicide.
Yeah.
It was the B side. It had live tracks on it that included Reckless Life, Move to the City, Nice Blues, Don't Play Rock and Roll. Like the first 4 tracks were all Live Like a Suicide, and then the last 4 were all those acoustic songs, like Patience and Used to Love Her. Yeah, I love GNR Lies. GNR Lies is actually, I think, in my opinion, just that's probably definitely their second best, because it's hard, because I mean it's all live songs and then a couple acoustics.
Well, and Use Your Illusion should have just been one album, probably.
Yeah, the one
they could have
agree.
even made it like 18 or 19 songs, but there's just maybe a couple too many filler tracks on that to have it like really justify being a double release. They were just trying to cash in.
Well, that was Axl trying to cash in.
Yeah, they had taken a long break after Appetite and Lies and everything, and I'm sure they were ready to chill, and when they got back, they were like, all right, we'll just do 2 to space this out.
Well, you have to think, too, at that point in time, Guns N' Roses was one of the biggest bands around.
Yeah, and
They
if
were
you
one of
like
the biggest bands ever.
one thing I want to mention too, where it's just like the B-side was Rocket Queen. Rocket Queen's probably one of my favorite Guns N' Roses songs.
Yeah.
And then for those who ever, didn't watch any like backstories of Guns N' Roses, so for a period of time, Guns N' Roses was going house to house, living with pretty much strippers and hookers, like house to house, which is interesting. And then, what's the, why can't I think of the drummer's name at this point in time?
Steven Adler.
Steven Adler. Okay, so the part in Rocket Queen where it's the chick moaning?
Yeah.
That little bridge
Don't
part?
forget about Matt Sorum.
Yeah, Matt Sorum was amazing, too.
Well, this is this though. Steven Adler, this is the story. I mean, it's pretty much proven at this point, but that moaning part, that's Axl Rose fucking Steven Adler's girlfriend in the studio, and then they recorded it.
Ain't that some shit?
Queen. Yeah. Because there's controversy. A lot of these girls try to figure out who that song was actually written about. Because, again, they were going house to house and stuff, but yeah, that moaning part is... Yeah,
all these fucking 80s California bands just love to fuck whoever the
hell
it's
funny, dude. Like, Welcome to the Jungle, I mean, it was, like, written, obviously, when Axl Rose first landed in California, and he was, like, obviously, like, on this path to, like, start a band and do something with his life, and there was, like, points and times where he was, like, living with, like, weird dudes that try to, like, touch his penis, apparently.
Fun fact, like, Axl Rose was born in Lafayette, Indiana, February 6, 1962.
Music news.
Yeah, music news. So some recent topics here. Silver Sun Pickups. They're going to release their 5th album. Butch Vig producing it. It's called Widow's Weeds. It'll be released on June 7th via their own New Machine Recordings label. States here the alt-rock band previewed the LP with its pulsating, string-fueled lead single, It Doesn't Matter Why. That's really edgy.
I'll have to check it out.
It says in a statement about Widow's Weeds, which follows 2015's Better Nature, the band detailed their studio chemistry with Vig. He's the famed producer, obviously, at Classic Records. I mean, he did Nevermind. He did Siamese Dream by Smashing Pumpkins. He really listens to each band member, and he puts a great value on each individual and what they can add to the music, said bassist Nicky Moniger. It was very collaborative with him. He's such an easygoing person, and he put everybody at ease.
I read, it was interesting, they kind of stole this album title, Widow's Weeds, from a Norwegian gothic metal band's debut album, Tristania, in 1998.
Wow.
Yeah, like they had the same exact album title, Widow's Weeds, in 1998.
That's funny.
I mean, how do you feel about Silver Sun Pickups, like in that alt scene? Because, I mean, obviously they got Butch Vig, and they're saying he did Smashing Pumpkins, he did Nirvana.
Yeah.
And he's the perfect guy for Silver Sun Pickups. Because Carnivis, which was their first album, that
sounded like it should have been produced by
It really
Butch
should,
Vig.
because I do like the song Lazy Eye.
Yeah,
I thought that was like,
there's great songs on iTunes. I love the first EP. I forget what it's called. Pickle or something. And then the second one is the album Carnivis. Really good, well thought out. Twinkle, Lazy Eye,
Yeah,
bunch
and
of
then
other good
Swoon.
ones. And then
Swoon was
Swoon
pretty good.
had
Substitution?
Panic Switch, Substitution. Yeah. And those were both good. And I kind of fell off with them after that a little bit. But it makes sense because the singles that they putting out weren't really hitting me. I was just looking at their like production history here, and their 2012 and 2015 albums were produced by Jackknife Lee, who has kind of like a way more normal sound, more mid-range. He did like R.E.M., Snow Patrol, U2, Weezer. So they're since Swoon, their second album, they've worked with this guy.
Yeah.
And I feel like they haven't really been in the spotlight too much in that period.
Yeah, because I mean, if you think Carnivis, it
Nothing
comes
popped
out
up on my
yeah.
radar.
I mean, it comes out in 2006. I mean, you think about that sound that was coming out. When I first heard Lazy Eye, I really thought that was a song that came out in like maybe the later 90s. I didn't realize how much later that this band came out with this album, and it's funny because Lazy Eye, I recently got into again. Like, it's one of those songs where you've heard it before, and then someone's like, "Yo, check out Silver Sun Pickups." I'm like, I don't even know who that is, and then they show you a song like, "Oh, that's them. That was Lazy Eye for me." And then I actually went back because I'm really into listening complete albums to really kind of get an idea of the band, and I actually listen to Carnivus, and it's really good. It's actually a really good album.
Yeah.
And I'm like really so Butch Vig doing this is exciting.
Yeah,
I'll definitely check it out.
If they can channel the spirit from their first EP and their first 2 albums, and with Butch Vig on board, they could be on track to make maybe their best album to date.
Also, in music news, we got Neil Young, your boy Neil Young,
The fucking man.
Yeah,
I got some notes for this.
Neil Young and Crazy Horse are going to enter the studio in the near future and record their first new album since 2012, Psychedelic
Which was
Pill.
amazing. That was a great album.
Young confirmed the news on his Neil Young Archives website in a response to a reader's letter asking about his future recording plans. He quoted here, "Crazy Horse is about to enter the studio with 11 new ones." That's what he said there, Connor. 11 new ones for you, bud.
Listen to Psychedelic Pill. Ramada Inn, that's a great song. I think Walk Like a Ghost is on there. Or what is it called? That's the T.
It also says here, though, Neil Young revived Crazy Horse last year for a series of low-profile theater gigs in California. They were the first performances by the group without guitarist Frank Poncho, San Pedro.
Technically, besides Neil Young, he's the only non-original member of Crazy Horse.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, he's played on all their stuff except their first album. Their first guitarist, Danny Whitten, died. He was like the subject of Needle and the Damage Done.
This was the first time, he's performed with them since 75.
And, okay, so then, 75. Danny Whitten actually played on a lot of the Crazy Horse stuff, not just the first album. He played on the first one with, like, Down by the River, Cinnamon Girl, Cowgirl and Sand. Then he played on Afro Gold Rush.
Yeah. And it's funny because San Pedro also said here, he said, "I'm 70, I'm retired now, and I want to stay home." As simple as that. I mean, the guy...
Can't blame him.
Yeah, I mean, you're 70. I mean, some guys just don't really want to be in the spotlight like that for too long.
Crazy Horse were not living light lives either. This whole time.
And it also says here, and then he's like, people say, "Isn't it sad you're not in Crazy Horse?" And he's like, "I don't think of it that way. I'll always be in Crazy Horse. As big a part as Crazy Horse as anyone that's ever been in it." I mean, that's clearly stated. Yeah, it's absolutely true. I mean, it's like one of those things where you kind of just,
he's a huge part of Rust
dude,
Never
I mean,
Sleeps.
you did what you did. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Crazy Horse's albums are like the golden trove for Neil Young albums because he doesn't always go with Crazy Horse. Like Harvest wasn't Crazy Horse. Tons of stuff he's done wasn't Crazy Horse.
Yeah.
Harvest Moon. More, but he hasn't done. Besides, he did 2 albums with them in 2012, Psychedelic Pill, and then an Americana, which was an Americana album, and then before that, the last time was 03. So at this point, it is kind of a bit of an event when he goes in to the studio with Crazy Horse to do like a rock album.
I feel like I need to get into Neil Young. I feel like that's a market that I haven't tapped.
Oh, dude.
I feel like I'm missing out.
Yeah, you are. He's insane. Like, he doesn't, shred, but he kind of actually fucking does.
Yeah, I mean, by what I've heard, like rocking in the free world. I mean, that's the extent of my Neil Young knowledge.
Old
And it's
Man.
funny why.
Old Man.
And
Heart
why
of
you
Gold.
really know that.
Yeah.
Like a Hurricane.
Let me ask you this: why you really know Neil Young? Is it because of Pearl Jam?
No.
You just how did you? Because did you even listen to Crosby, Stills and Nash?
No, actually, I'm not a giant fan of Crosby. Stills
Okay,
and
but I'm
Nash.
saying because I mean Neil Young is one of those artists.
Sweet Judy Blue Eyes.
I don't know what it is about that. I don't know. I just I don't know if it's like the way things sounded back then. I don't know. I'm just not a giant fan of Crosby, Stills and Nash.
Do you like Buffalo Springfield?
No,
You don't like that song For What It's Worth?
not really.
Wow.
You know what song I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm not a
You don't
giant.
know Do you know Mr. Soul?
I can't say I do.
Yeah, you'll have to get into Neil
Oh,
Young,
man.
man.
Yeah, I feel like I
That's
should.
a lot of
Yeah,
good
get
stuff there.
Yeah, you're missing out.
50
Um,
albums or so.
Also in news here, Hologram. Oh, here we go with the hologram shows.
Holograms.
But I'm actually cool with this one. Hologram of Ronnie James Dio. Yeah, so virtual Dio. Yeah, the holy diver himself. He's going to be touring as a hologram in the United States this spring with a lineup of musicians that performed in the late metal legends title of the band, Dio. It's called the Dio Returns. It's a trek that will kick off May 31st. It starts off at Barbara B. Mann Performing Arts Hall in Fort Myers, Florida. It's going to wrap up June 29th at Brooklyn Bowl in Las Vegas, Nevada. It says here tickets are on sale April 12th, 10 a.m. local time. More dates are expected to be announced soon, and complete information is available on Dio's website. The tour will pair Ronnie James Dio hologram with his old Dio bandmates, guitarist Craig Cody, drummer Simon Wright, and keyboardist Scott Warren, as well as Dio Disciples bassist Bjorn Englund. It says the tour will also feature guest vocalist Tim the Ripper Owens, formerly of Judas Priest, as well as doing with Rising Force for Anxiety. That's pretty cool. He's worked with, so yeah, obviously. And it says the new show will boast a 90-minute set list featuring music from throughout Dio's career, from Rainbow to Black Sabbath to Dio. I mean, obviously Black Sabbath referencing like Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules. It's also include hits like Holy Diver, King of Rock and Roll, and We Rock. So it's funny because I talk about this all the time. I respect Dio on such a level because he was such an innovative musician for that sound of metal. And even when he joined Sabbath, you know, like especially like you think when like Paul Rodgers joined Queen. For that period of time. Here's an excellent vocalist coming from an already established band being Bad Company, and immediately he's getting shit because he's joining this band. Nobody's trying to be Freddie Mercury in that sense. The same way Dio was not trying to be Ozzy Osbourne. He had a voice, and the cool thing about it was when I saw him at Metal Masters with Judas Priest, Motorhead, and Testament, they toured as Heaven and Hell. Yeah. I thought that was super respectful because that's like, you know, that's how I felt when you see like Guns N' Roses touring as Guns N' Roses after Chinese Democracy came out. Like, what, at 36, you know, guitarists record on that album?
Well, I feel like it's like the same deal as like when Sammy Hagar became the singer of Van Halen.
Yeah, but Van Halen was still in the band. You know, like Ozzy Osbourne, like that was a group effort to be Black Sabbath. Like Van Halen, that's his name going into that, you know?
In the 80s, they were still called Black Sabbath, though, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
They weren't called Heaven and Hell, right?
No, but I'm saying
that makes sense, though, because they were still relevant.
That's
they
what
replaced
using the
Ozzy
name,
Osbourne.
obviously, and we're Black Sabbath still.
But then, like, they got back with Ozzy a couple times for reunions and such, I believe. And after that, like, you kind of recognize that, like, Ozzy's the fucking man for Black Sabbath.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Then after that, you do fucking Heaven and Hell as the title.
What was even
that's
cooler,
definitely
though,
super respectful.
Yeah,
Yep.
And especially when they toured with Dio, if you would notice when you would see these shows, I mean, you have Ronnie James Dio out, and I'm seeing him in the 2000s. You figure Dio's already got Holy Diver out. You know, he's already doing like his own thing. Even before all that, when he was in Rainbow, like that was another band of that scene that wasn't as well known. But he was established enough that when he went out and did Sabbath, I mean, they wanted him to be there. And then when he goes out and does his solo career, I mean, he's already made a name for himself. I mean, when you think Devil Horns, the first thing you think about is Dio. I mean, Black Sabbath, it was so cool because when you would see him live, Dio would not take the spotlight. I mean, it was so cool because he really respected that when he was going up there with a band that people are expecting to see some of their music. I mean, they obviously weren't playing Ozzy songs. They were really doing Mob Rules and Heaven and Hell stuff, which is there's some actually good songs off there.
Now, how do we feel about the hologram? Like, do you feel like you're getting your money's worth by seeing a hologram?
Okay, so
No.
Well, it depends on how much you're charging for that.
It's not going to be cheap, probably, because of the active musicians that are
there. Exactly.
And that's the thing. I don't think Dio itself is a big enough band. Like, for instance, I don't think anybody who really listened to Dio as a commercial band in that sense would be able to say, like, you know, I really like, you know, even Tim the Ripper Owens. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But, I mean, could you really name all the musicians in Dio's band just, like, off the top of your head?
No.
You know what I mean? But you can, and think about how many songs, and that's another thing. Like, there's not many Dio albums front to back that I could say, like, are gems, but then there's, like, 4 or 5 tracks in there. So then when you go and see a live set, I paid for the aesthetic to be able to see Ronnie James Dio in the flesh. The same way I paid to go see Bob Dylan, which was a miserable performance back in 2008. I saw Bob Dylan, but it was so cool being in his presence, just the idea, because, you know, think the time difference now.
Now, I feel like with the whole hologram thing, if they were to do it like a walk-in open air or like Hellfest or something, it's like, oh, here's a set of Dio's hologram.
So, like,
or
being
whatever.
a part of something
Yes,
else.
exactly. But I can't imagine, you know, selling tickets to somebody like where
Yeah.
the headliner is a hologram.
Yeah.
Like
Holograms are gonna be so easy to do soon that like you can
It'll
walk
almost
into
be the person.
McDonald's and fucking a hologram of the whole McDonald's gang, like the hamburger,
Yeah.
Yeah.
McDonald is in there.
Soon you'll
dancing
be
when
able
you
to
walk in
3D
for
print
you.
yourself a cheeseburger on your printer, dude.
well, do we
Yeah.
remember
Depending
when
on the
NWA
genre.
did it for Eazy-E?
They also did it
Yeah.
for Tupac.
Yeah, they did it
Yeah.
for
Like
Tupac.
Coachella or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I
But see,
think
that's
it's
the thing, like,
cheesy.
if you-
but
That's different though. That's at a festival. Like,
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what
it's
we're
just
talking about.
included. You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
But here's the thing. I mean, there's certain artists, like for instance, like I'm saying again, it's Dio, right?
Mhm.
Like Dio has just kind of a limited fan base in the sense that you really have to be into that type of music to really want to be at a Dio show.
Exactly.
Now, for instance, like a hologram of Tupac, I would probably pay money to see that. Just for the simple fact that I get to be at a Tupac show because it's a different environment. You know what I mean? Like, you could have that type of show going on, and I would just love to hear his music in that. Like, because a live setting is so much different than, like, blasting Tupacalypse Now by yourself.
Yeah.
It's a different setting.
Well, what my issue is how do you know it's actually, mapped from Dio? Like, you couldn't have some, like 5 foot nothing dude walking around acting like Dio and you just motion capture him and like superimpose Dio's face on him. Like, how do you know this is like legitimate Dio? You know what I mean?
But are you, because you have to understand, you're seeing an artist like Dio.
Yes.
Right? Dio isn't so much of a front man where he's going around the stage like Ozzy Osbourne. He ain't running, like Freddie Mercury up there with the whole persona. You're getting to see Dio. So are you really upset at the idea if you pay to see a hologram and you're like judging the hologram?
Well,
like,
it ruins the credibility of it. It ruins the credibility. It's like you're not seeing a Dio hologram. You're seeing some dude playing Dio.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
But I'm saying it really what it comes down to, and this is why I said the idea of live music is because when you're in that setting and you're hearing songs that you love, like off their LPs, when you're around a group of strangers and that bond you have, which is people you never met before, just over one common thing being the music that's being played.
Yeah.
That's a granted again why I would not spend a lot of money to go see something when in reality, like, what do you tell your kids? Like at least when I saw Fleetwood Mac with the original lineup, granted it was in 2014 and it wasn't like right after Rumors dropped out, but I saw Fleetwood Mac's original lineup. You know what I mean? I saw Bob Dylan in the flesh. I saw Bad Company, like all these bands. Like, do I want to say, like, yo, I just think about when people would tell me stories of shows they saw, like, back in the day. Like, I always loved hearing that 80s, 70s and stuff. Do I want to say, like, yo, I saw Dio in 2019. How was it? Well, he was virtual. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel...
I had to wear a pair of goggles to see him.
Yeah, dude. Like, yeah. I mean...
I had to wear 3D glasses to see him.
So, again, I mean, I think they are going to charge more money than it should be. But, again, I don't totally discredit the whole hologram thing because it gives people that opportunity.
It's a novelty.
It is, yeah.
How much would you pay to see the Doors with a Jim Morrison hologram with all the rest of the other Doors?
I would claim bankruptcy.
Really?
Yeah. And again, because you just said with all the other Doors,
Yeah.
so I know the music that's going to be produced, which is the instrumental aspect of it. A lot of the reason I listen to the Doors comes from the instrumentals. Now, probably the other 50%, I will say.
What about
will be
Nirvana?
Nirvana, probably not. It's a whole
How
different
much would
band.
you pay for Dave Grohl, Chris Novoselic, and a Kurt Cobain hologram?
Dude,
$15 lawn
Pat-
seat.
No,
Meter, too.
I would pay like $50 for lawn.
Really?
50?
Yeah, general admission, I'd pay probably
50?
$50.
Huh.
Yeah,
For lawn.
for like general admission. Yeah, like if it was with Electric Factory, like I would just pay to
okay.
go stand there. All right, so the last thing with the news here, it's days after replacing the Rolling Stones at Jazz Fest, the headliners, they actually had to cancel it because Mick Jagger had heart surgery. Fleetwood Mac actually also canceled their gig at New Orleans Festival. They also did. They've been touring around here. They actually postponed a date as well. Fleetwood Mac. Stevie Nicks is actually dealing with the flu at this moment.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
It's just speedy recovery here.
Yeah,
Rage Against the
absolutely.
Wheel
Mainstream.
that
And it-
hologram on out.
yeah, right. It's cool with Fleetwood
They
Mac.
should have the backup hologram.
She's not dead yet, but
Yeah, dude. But hey, here's the thing, dude. I just saw Fleetwood Mac March 22nd. I mean, obviously the lineup wasn't the original, but they did act Mike Campbell as well as Neil Finn. Neil Finn being from Crowded House. Don't Dream It's Over.
yeah, I'm not real familiar with Crowded House.
Well, it's funny because even when they get mentioned, they're like the one-hit wonders. They were an Australian band, but that song, Don't Dream, It's Over. It's funny, that song, when they played it live, like I heard it, and that was another thing with Silvers on Pig. I was like, I know this song. Oh, it's this guy. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But I just saw him. I saw him March 22nd. It was with those two guys along with Mick Fleetwood, Stevie Nicks, Christine, and John McVie. I also saw him back in 2014 with
Isn't
the original
Lindsey
lineup.
Buckingham
Lindsey
not
Buckingham,
in
he's
it
done.
either.
He's done. Yeah, the show was good. It was good, but I'm telling you, the first time I saw it was profound. Like, the music was there, the quality of being there. It was just an excellent performance. So think about it. If you were going to be able to, let's say, create a festival, we'll say like 5 bands, okay? 4 of them, and they can be living or dead. They can be bands that are together or not.
So any band
off
the spectrum.
Off the spectrum. So we'll say this, 5 bands, but however, we're going to make it like this. 4 of those bands are just complete, like, bands. Like, for instance, if you pick Pantera, like Dime's still alive, they're in their prime,
Okay.
etc. But the 5th band, which will be your headliner, you compose a supergroup of living or dead artists to make one formation of a band.
Okay, so what are we thinking? Like 2 guitar players, a bass player, drums.
Yeah, and a keyboardist for like a wild
vocalist.
card if you want to do a keyboardist, yeah, and then the vocalist, obviously. But yeah, you got 4 bands. Structure them, obviously, how you would do your opening act, who would be the 4th band to technically headline, but then you have that 5th band to come out as your absolute supergroup.
Okay.
So how do you guys want to do this? You want to go around?
Yeah,
and
we'll start
say
with
'em,
Bill,
and then
go
we'll
around.
back
Yeah, we'll just go, and then we'll
talk about each
then we'll
one.
discuss it. Like, yeah, give you the lineup. You know what I mean?
All right.
You
So
give, like him discuss his after he gives his lineup, and then so on and so forth. Explain why you picked the bands, the obvious order that you're putting them in, and then your supergroup, obviously.
all right. So all right. Let's set the stage here. You're standing in an open field, like
Yeah.
a Woodstock type setup, because my festival is badass.
It's all standing. It's standing area, right?
My festival is absolutely insane. All right. So you get there, you find your spot in the lawn. You're looking at this empty stage. It's dark.
Let's say this though: you bought the tickets. When you bought the tickets, they didn't even show you a lineup.
Okay.
They literally sold you tickets. They were $250, but they promised you you're not going to want to miss this.
Okay.
That's it. You don't even know who you're going to see. They said it's going to be 5 acts, $250, take it or leave it, and you took a gamble. So now, boom, you're at the festival. You're waiting. That first artist is going to come on.
All right, you're looking at the stage, and all of a sudden, boom, lights come on, and then you hear, dun, 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 dun. Alice in Chains opens. Then from Alice in Chains, you're going to hit Foo Fighters. Okay? And I'm talking Foo Fighters from the early 2000s. Like, when they're, like, no bullshit, like, Foo Fighters. After Foo Fighters, you're going to witness the greatest concert you're ever going to see. Van Halen with both Sammy Hagar and David Lee Roth.
Both.
That's
Both.
your supergroup?
No, that's not a super
That's
group.
his act. No. Listen,
No.
we're not doing no cross era
No,
band.
no, it
You're
would
not
be.
seeing Black Sabbath with Theo and Ozzy. You guys settle on
Yeah,
David
but
Lee
it'd be
Roth.
cool if it was.
Who cares, man? You guys settle on David Lee Roth or Sammy Hagar. The fact that
Okay.
because they're not going to share the stage, first of all.
No, they wouldn't. All right, so you would have Van Halen from circa 1984.
Okay.
They're touring on the 1984 album. They're in their prime. These songs just came out.
Okay.
You're going to hear all the good songs and none of the horse shit.
All right.
Then, after Van Halen exits the stage, you're going to have Metallica, who's going to play.
Metallica's headlining over fucking Van Halen.
Well, Metallica's going to put on a badass set.
They
Because
are
I'm
bigger.
talking Metallica from Black Album era.
Oh.
Metallica's going to play a blistering 2.5 hour set.
Blistering, too.
Blistering 2.5 hours. They're
Wow.
probably going to end with, I mean, if it were me personally and I got to choose a set list, it would end with Blackened. Like, I just think that would be
Wow.
the ultimate ending song.
That's like the ultimate opening track.
No, it would open with "And Justice for All."
Wow.
Dude, you think of
Okay.
the or
Yeah.
that or
You went
I-
so detailed into this for set lists and shit.
Listen, dude.
listen,
Let
I've
the
been
man
dreaming
go.
of this. I've been dreaming of this like this.
Yeah, the
this
man's
concert
time,
forever.
He's
This is
diving
Bill
right
Stock
in
we're
there into
talking
his
about.
amygdala, dude. He's just coming all out with all these
This is-
hopes and dreams.
This is Bill Stock.
Yeah.
This is what's going to happen if I hit the lottery.
Okay.
All right, so then
What, you're gonna dig up like Lane Staley. This is what's gonna happen when you hit the lottery.
Time machine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
oh,
Time Machine.
Time Machine. Oh yeah, we'll
Yeah.
call Doc Brown, dude.
all right, so after Blackened, the stage goes dark, and then you see a beam of light that comes down, and who's standing there as the front man?
So this is your super group, right?
This is a super group.
Okay.
Beam of light comes down on this dark stage. Lane Staley. Then, Lane Staley. He's standing at the microphone waiting for the other members to come up.
Mhm.
On your left, you have Jerry Cantrell that rolls up. To your right, you have Stevie Ray Vaughan. At this point, you're wondering what the hell is going on. Light shines off in the back. You have Rick Wakeman from Yes, the keyboard player.
Yes.
Okay.
Then, behind or in front of him, you have Michael Anthony from Van Halen. and then the light shines in the background, and you have arguably one of the greatest drummers of all time, Mike Portnoy. And you're sitting there wondering what this band is. They start playing, and you realize that it's a rock blues band with like an influence of metal, and it's the best shit you've ever heard in your life.
Okay.
That is my ideal concert.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
Connor, we got.
All right. So the opening group is going to be The Clash in 1980, just after the release of Sandinista. They're going to play the self-titled. They're going to play Give 'Em Enough Rope. They're going to play the shit off Black Market Clash.
Boss in the Supermarket.
Yeah, London Calling.
Oh, yeah.
And then they're going to play Sandinista, and they're not going to play nothing off Combat Rock or Cut the Crap. And it's going to fucking
No
rule.
Rock the Cash Bar, dude.
And then after the Clash, we're going to kick it up a notch. Fucking Rage Against the Machine, Evil Empire tour.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah. And then, following Rage, we really kick it up a notch. Nirvana. Fucking Kurt Cobain enters the stage.
What era of Nirvana?
Actually, I didn't even think about that. See, I don't know. Like, if I had to choose when I would have seen him, it probably would have been on the In Utero tour, just because
They would have had all
they
the
had
songs.
the biggest set and shit.
Yeah.
But they sounded better on the Nevermind tour. So fuck it, I'll take them on the Nevermind tour. Honestly, actually.
Okay.
And then after Nirvana, you kick it up a notch in fame and bigness for the non-super surprise headliner, Neil Young, Crazy Horse. They're gonna play for like 6 hours. Yeah.
Better bring your chairs.
Mm-hmm. And then, if anyone's still awake, my super group is gonna be Jimi Hendrix on guitar and vocals, John Frusciante from the Red Hot Chili Peppers on guitar and backup vocals. Tim Comerford is going to return to the stage from Rage Against the Machine's performance and play bass for them. And then I have an oddball drummer, Dave Abraziz from Pearl Jam. He played on the 10 tour, the Versus album, and then Vitalogy or part of Vitalogy. I forget. But
That sounds like a pretty good band.
he's a great drummer. Like,
Very groovy.
if I had to pick a Pearl Jam drummer, I love Matt Cameron.
Yeah, Matt Cameron was,
Yeah, he's really, really good.
He's insanely good, and he probably even is better than Dave Abraziz, but for Pearl, he's better for Soundgarden. Like,
Yeah.
I'll take Dave Abraziz actually on Pearl Jam.
Okay.
Now, what kind of music is it? Like what genre would you say this band would be?
Jimmy dominated,
Okay.
but with like a more modern sound, slightly.
Okay.
Like that's where you got like Tim Comerford and
Yeah.
Dave Abraziz for to like modern up the rhythms and the grooves.
Yeah, it would be a very, very groovy band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Extremely groovy.
But
That sounds good.
Yeah.
if only.
Yeah. What do you got, Steve?
So, same aesthetics, you're just standing there, you just spent $250 on a ticket, you have no clue what's about to happen. Then you're sitting there and it gets real dark, the sun's still kind of up, it's like getting a little late. And all of a sudden you hear just that scratching guitar and your lead act comes on, being the Jimi Hendrix Experience. We're talking 1968.
Ooh.
Okay, that's your first act, Jimi Hendrix Experience. Voodoo Child starts it off, and that's just how
Oh,
it
that's
goes. So you get
awesome.
the
They're on tour.
opportunity
They
to see
played
it.
my festival. Now he's at your shit.
Oh yeah, he's going right back to back, but he's bringing the experience though.
Yeah,
He's
it's a
not with that
super
super group. He
Yeah.
wants to go back to the experience. All right. So then you have that good jam session because Jimi Hendrix gives like those both vibes, the calming, like the psychedelic vibes. So to keep with that pace, your second act is Pink Floyd, Animals era.
Excellent.
Yeah, Animals era. I mean, you're gonna. But see, here's the thing about Pink
Jimi
Floyd
Hendrix
though.
would lose his shit.
But it's really dangerous because with Pink Floyd, they're not really so much a live act where you're going to hear a huge compilation of different songs or different albums. They really pour for the album.
They're gonna dive into that
So yeah,
album.
so that's why I'm going to limit the idea because you're not going to focus so much on Pink Floyd because you still have 3 more other acts to follow. So this is going to be Animals era of Pink Floyd. So you're going to get that real trippy, slow down the vibe. And then all of a sudden, everything gets different. You have your little break. You're going to get your beer, whatever. The acid's kicking in. And next thing you know, Nirvana comes out. In Utero era, though. So you get this real raw, edgy, new Nirvana coming out. I mean, you're hearing Milk It. You're hearing Tourette's. You're hearing Radio-Friendly Unit Shifter. They're going back to the Nevermind. However, it's going to start with Blue.
okay.
That's going to be the opening track. Then you're,
That was a common opener
it's
for them.
such a good opener.
Yeah.
Just like when you were talking about, with
And Justice for All.
No, when you're talking about Alice in Chains
Alice in
come
Chains.
out. Yeah, dude. Like Damn That River. That's a great song to come out.
Well,
with,
when I've seen Alice in Chains, dude, they've opened up with 2 different songs. One was Them Bones.
Yeah.
The other one was Bleed the Freak.
Yeah,
Bleed the Freak's really
Bleed the
good
Freak.
too. Yeah. So then your 4th act comes out, and this is just going to be essentially just an opportunity for a jam session because their closing song is going to be Moby Dick into How Many More Times, being Led Zeppelin. That's your 4th act, and we're talking like
How do you go up from there?
Wait, it was Jimmy, Pink Floyd,
Nirvana,
okay,
and then
Nirvana,
Led Zeppelin.
Okay.
So you get this whole different type of pace of music, and it's just like all over the place with the ups and downs, right? Then your 4th act comes on, being Led Zeppelin. They close out, like I said, Moby Dick, just a huge drum session by John Bonham leading into How Many More Times. That lasts like 16 minutes, and then you think it's over. But then the light shines, and I'm going to go backwards with this one. The light shines on the drummer first, just kicking it up, being
Okay.
Keith Moon from The Who.
Okay.
That's
Wow.
how he's just going to start coming in real quiet, but he's going to build up because, Keith Moon gets really loud. Then all of a sudden to go with the drums, next thing you know, the bass starts kicking in. It's Geezer Butler from Black Sabbath.
Oh shit.
Then both guitarists walk on the
They'll have
stage.
fun together.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Then both guitarists walk in, and you know him from Eric and the Dominoes last time they were able to perform together like that, being Eric Clapton and Dwayne Allman. They come out, just chugging guitars with the bass and the drums.
That's cool.
And then all of a sudden the keys just start coming out real quietly as well. And who's that? Oh, that's Elton John over there.
Oh shit.
So now you got on the stage, you got Elton John, Dwayne Allman, Eric Clapton, Geezer Butler, and Keith Moon. And all of a sudden you just hear this like raspy, just drunken style vocals, and coming out in his leather pants and puffy shirt is Jim Morrison. And they just jam for till everyone's like passed out pretty much.
Now, what type of music would that be?
So it's going to be like a bluesy-esque type thing.
Okay.
Like Backdoor Man, like Jim Morrison style.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that
yeah.
really just like, it's just like
Roadhouse
jamming. It's just
blues.
jamming around.
Yeah.
But then you're also going to get the technicality with Keith Moon being able to play like heavy rock. And you also got Elton John that can keep up with that fast-paced style. And then Geezer Butler can pretty much fit any type of like bluesy, because like Black Sabbath had that vibe.
Now, would you use Elton John and Eric Clapton as background vocals? too?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah, I would actually probably feature both of them to do their own songs on the sides as
That
well.
would be cool.
Yeah, like you could give like just a hone in where it's just Eric Clapton and Elton John doing their own vocal style, and you have Jim Morrison like in the back. Like,
Maybe they can cover Beth by Kiss. All right, well, that's very interesting.
yeah.
These 3 festivals would be pretty cool.
Dude, and that's what I'm saying. Like, if I spent $250 blindly and that's what I saw, I would feel like I ripped them off.
Oh my God!
I mean,
yeah.
you think about all the artists you just saw, because even everybody that I named, like I know you put some members from your bands in your supergroup.
Yeah.
But even so, like you figure the bands I picked, the bands he picked, think about each musician you're seeing. I mean, just
Yeah.
Led Zeppelin as a whole, the whole band, you're seeing so many great musicians in their prime right there.
Get to see Staley in his prime.
Yeah, dude.
So Led Zeppelin era for you, just to clarify, that was like Led Zeppelin 2?
No, absolutely not.
No?
Probably right before 4.
Yeah,
I love
okay.
Led Zeppelin 3. I
Okay.
even like 4 too, but between
Yeah.
1, 2, and 3, you can make a solid 14-track set list between those 3 albums.
Yeah.
I mean, even Houses of Holy, Physical Graffiti. I mean, there's so many good songs that you're missing out on.
Yeah, if I was going to pick a Led Zeppelin tour, I'd probably pick Physical Graffiti, honestly.
Yeah, like they're going that far, but I want them like at their raw edgiest. Like, 'cause like
Yeah.
2 was so good, and even 1 like Communication Breakdown. That's just such a like a different song than what most people are accustomed to with Led Zeppelin.
Yep.
I mean, but then you could even like Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You. You can add in there. I mean, the Immigrant Song is what they would probably come out with.
That would be
Just that
cool.
screaming.
That'd be an awesome opening.
Yeah, dude, that'd be awesome.
Let us know in the comments what you guys think. What festival would you like to go see? What would be your ideal festival?
And what would be your supergroup?
We would like to hear. Email us. Tell us. Write to us. Call us. We don't care. We want to hear. All right, so last week we gave a suggestion to check out the Netflix biopic, The Dirt. And for those of you that are just tuning in, The Dirt is a biopic of, one of the world's most notorious bands, Motley Crue. All 3 of us here have watched the movie, and we're going to let you guys know what we think. What
Just
did you
like
think,
the band,
Connor?
it was pretty bad.
So yeah, Connor, you were the one that hadn't seen it last week between the 3 of us. So I want to, because your review I haven't even heard.
Like, this
me
is
and Bill
fresh.
have already discussed it, so I want to hear your input on it, because I haven't even heard it yet. I don't know what you thought.
It just felt like a made-for-TV movie. Like, there was like a couple times where they broke the 4th wall, but then like it wasn't like that the whole movie, and like
Yeah.
it was like aside from like me not even being interested in Motley Crue that much, like it didn't bring me in much. Like there was nothing. The only thing that really hit me in that movie was I never knew Vince Neil's daughter died when she was 4.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, I didn't
pretty
know
much.
that either.
It wasn't during like necessarily the heyday of Motley Crue, but it was shortly. Yeah, it was like right after he left in like 1990 or whatever. And I was like, because I did like Motley Crue when I was a kid. And
As did all of us.
I always wondered like why the hell did they break up? Like they're all still alive, like
Mhm.
you know what, yada yada yada. And that was kind of for me like, okay, so I definitely get why Vince Neil, and I never knew Vince Neil killed that dude in a car accident.
The drummer from Henley Rocks.
Yeah, the song was all right. Like,
With the Dirt song.
yeah, the song with Machine Gun Kelly. That song was all right. I like Machine Gun Kelly's part the best.
Yeah.
But
Really?
I did think he did a decent job.
I thought he was
as
like the
Tommy
only
Lee.
good actor. In
No,
that
I'm
movie.
actually not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Iwan Rheon, or however you pronounce his name. You guys don't watch Game of Thrones. He played Bolton Ramsay in Game of Thrones. He was the guy who played Mick Mars.
Ah, okay.
Dude, he was perfect because
I thought he was good. In that.
I thought he was very good, but he obviously wasn't the standout actor. But he played his role particularly well in that he wasn't like beat for all the bullshit.
Yeah,
that,
I
like,
wouldn't.
Motley Crue
I
was
wouldn't
doing.
criticize the acting in the movie.
Yeah, no.
No one in the movie really like didn't hit the spot on the characters.
Well, the dude that played Nikki Sixx, I feel like didn't really get it.
Yeah, well,
he wasn't badass enough, kind
No,
of. He was a
he
little
wasn't.
bit too
Here's
much of
the
a
problem,
baby.
though.
Or
Yeah, he was like a
something.
pretty boy.
Yeah.
this is the thing about Motley Crue. I mean, you have to understand. Like, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people, and I don't know if you guys have read it, the Heroin Diaries.
Nah.
So Nikki Sixx breaks down a specific year. I mean, he does an entire year. It's literally him doing a journal every day for that entire year, and obviously, it's more personally him. And getting aside from like the drug addiction of the band itself, like Nikki Sixx, this was his brainchild. I mean, he wrote pretty much everything for this band.
Yep.
They didn't really hone in on that of how much he actually cared about this band. And the thing about the movie, like again, the acting was there. I mean, to an extent. I mean, I was actually really impressed with MGK because I like MGK, and seeing him in an acting role like that. He actually was in SLC Punk 2, by the way. The second SLC Punk.
Oh, wow.
He had a minor role in that movie, but again, to see him in that prominent role of playing a figure that you figure all these 80s hair metal freaks like enjoy, to see MGK come in and play that role, MGK has credibility, and then he's playing a role where he's got to perform. And I think he did well, but here's the thing about Motley Crue. I'm not a huge fan of Motley Crue, but I am a huge fan of the idea of seeing these bands that, they get bad credit later on, but you don't get to see what they did to get where they were at.
Yeah.
Then that's important. And to understand of how much Nikki Sixx put into that band. I mean, if you read Heroin Diaries, even when he was like coked up out of his mind, like shooting dope on his own, he was still writing bass parts. Like he was still about the band, and he never lost sight of that. Because think about it, even Anthony Kiedis, when he messed up doing his thing, he got kicked out of the band at one point.
Yeah.
A couple times, actually, if you think later down the line.
Well, because he wouldn't show up, and when
Yeah,
he did show up, he
but-
wasn't good.
Yeah, Nikki Sixx has always been there. I mean, mentally, maybe not so, but I think the movie itself was like too rushed. Like there wasn't a
Yes.
direction. Like we go into talking about biopics, like especially music-wise. Think of Bohemian Rhapsody. It was very basic to the idea where obviously they wanted to show the formation of the band, but they didn't have Freddie obviously as a small child, but they showed how he got in and made the band Queen.
Yeah.
And then obviously it was leading up to Live Aid. Like
It was interesting. Rolling Stone, I saw this thing, actually gave the Dirt credit for being like more factually accurate than
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Bohemian Rhapsody,
Which is interesting because, I mean, I will agree with that if that is the case. I mean, obviously, I do believe that because I know there was a lot of things that did come out that obviously weren't so much true. But for the sake of seeing a movie, you think of what this does. Like, I've seen memes where it's like a Thrash dude, like, wearing like an Onslaught shirt, and it says like Thrashers before the Dirt, and then Thrashers after the Dirt, and then the dude's got like teased hair and he's wearing like a scorpion sleeveless. And it's just, you see what this does. It creates that frenzy where all of a sudden there's some people that probably never even really listened to Motley Crue but knew of them, and then saw this movie, and next thing you know, they got, Dr. Feelgood on vinyl.
Yeah.
And again, the acting was there, but I think for my sake, like I didn't like it so much because I thought it was too rushed. The storyline was all over the place, especially the Ozzy scene. The Ozzy scene was very quick.
Yeah.
I mean, they made Ozzy, like if you don't know who Ozzy Osbourne is, they didn't even really emphasize that to the idea.
They just made him a lunatic.
Oh, yeah. Which is cool because he kind of was at that point in time in his life, but still, you didn't give him like
it
the
felt like
real
a made-for-TV movie that had higher like production costs.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so out of a 1 to 10 scale, what would you rank this movie, Steve?
So I'm actually going to say a 4. And I'm not
4?
I'm not. Yeah.
Oh, out of 10. Okay.
Yeah, I'm saying a 4 out of 10. I'm not saying a 4 out of 10 like, yo, this is a crap movie. I'm saying a 4 out of 10 because it's one of those things where it's on Netflix. So, I mean, obviously you have Netflix, it's streamable. I mean, I'm sure there's somebody out there with a Netflix account that you know because I don't even pay for my own Netflix. My fiance pays for it, so whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's free. It's worth a watch. It's enjoyable. I mean, it was almost like Rockstar. Like,
Yeah.
It was almost like I knew I was watching a movie about Motley Crue, but I felt like I was just watching a movie about a rock and roll band.
Yeah.
You know, like it was more fun to watch, but if you're going to watch it as a fan of, like, biopic movies and you really want to see a good storyline, you're not going to get that. It's just going to be all over the place, a lot of drugs, you know, dude's getting his dick sucked under the table, and he's, you know what I mean? It's just the basic stuff. I mean, you see a couple good artists in it, you know, and, like, again, the acting was pretty good. If you like MGK, I mean, it's a good opportunity for you to see him in a good role. But yeah, I mean, I give it a 4 just because of the storyline. It was too all over the place, and I really want depth, substance.
I'd say I'd give it a 5. Not the one up you or nothing, but I don't know.
Wait, that is one upping, but whatever, dude.
I don't know.
Dude,
I feel like it wasn't horrible. I feel like it could have been better. But all in all, with the accuracies of the movie and, you know, the couple good acting parts, I feel 5 stars, 5 out of 10 stars, whatever, 5 points. I feel like that's reasonable. I feel like that's not too much or too little. I feel like that's right on par on where it should be. How do you feel?
I'm going to do 3 out of 10.
Wow.
Yeah. Because it wasn't that funny, even though it was supposed to be. Like, there really wasn't, like, laugh
It's actually
out loud.
under comedy. If you go and search genre on comedy, the dirt pops up. Yeah.
They would have been better off doing, like, a more, like, biting take on Motley Crue, where, like, it was like sad and, like, hard. Like,
Yeah.
it was a tough take. Like, they make a big joke of it apparently, and it's like, yeah, it's funny because you made it out and you made a bunch of money, but, like, you know, you make people think it's like a big joke. It doesn't seem like that's how it really was at times.
No.
And yeah, so, like, I didn't like how they went about the movie, making it like comedy-ish, comedic, and I didn't like the plot was bad. Like, they jumped around, they skipped stuff from what I read, like major stuff. They got like a fair amount of details wrong, like something with Heather Locklear and Pamela Anderson, I think they got wrong. Yeah, so it was like, it's no Ray. I'll say that.
Well, it's actually kind of
Oh,
funny
yeah.
because it seems like we're on par with everyone else. Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 41%. Metacritic gave the movie 39 out of 100. So that's basically 40 or 4. David Fear of Rolling Stone gave the film rating 2 out of 5 stars. And he said, this is rock bad boy lore as a rocking bore. An endless parade of recreated after-party ecstasy and emptiness that robs the dirt of its vicarious thrill it had on the page. The sense that you shouldn't be having this much of a second-hand high reading about musicians acting like horrible people, but still seeming living the dream heroic.
Yeah. It's funny, too, because you give it a 5. I give it a 4. What do you give it, a 3? I mean, that's our average rating right there is 4. So, I mean, I was right on par with the idea of, like, where this should be at. But here's the thing, dude. You also see here that with Rotten Tomatoes, I mean, obviously they do critic, and then they also do fan approval, audience. Audience approval right now is 85%.
Well, I think that's just because it's Motley
That's
Crue.
On
what I'm
Google,
saying.
it's 95.
That's what I'm
Wow.
saying. But that bothers me because, again, you get critics who are, like, too harsh, and then you get fans that, like, just, you know, they'll
Diehards.
laugh
They just
and
like it 'cause
look
they
at
like Motley
anything.
Crue.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Just out of principle.
Okay.
Like, I'm telling you right now, if, like, my favorite band put out a bad song, I wouldn't be afraid to admit it. Like, yo, that song sucks. I would not just like a song because of a band. I would just like a movie because of who it's about.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Let's see how you feel about this one. Brian Tellerico from Roger Ebert gave the film 1 out of 4 stars, saying you could listen to Dr. Feelgood 2 full times during the runtime of The Dirt, and learn just about as much about the band as you do in this R-rated Wikipedia article of a movie, and you'd have way more fun.
I love that analogy that it's like a R-rated Wikipedia article of a movie. That's perfect.
Yeah, the analogy I really liked was the one that compared it to like a 90s VH1 piece on the band. But
Yeah.
it was like that, but it's
Yeah.
Owen Gleiberman from Variety.
Yeah.
It's like it's like a VH1 biopic of them, but it doesn't have them in it. And it's,
Well, I feel like their behind the music was better.
yeah, I
Yeah.
would rather
They're-
watch an hour and 50-minute long behind the music where it's just them getting interviewed or whatever than this movie.
So on the discussion real quick, before we move on from this and the discussion of biopic films. So, Bill, I'm going to ask you first. If you could have them make a movie, and it would be true in detail as well as the best actors possible for it, it'd be really well done. If you could pick a biopic movie about any band, living or dead, obviously,
Okay.
you know, who would it be about? And it's going to be actors portraying them. It's not a documentary, so like any type of film.
Okay. All right. I feel like the Van Halen story would be boring. I feel like a Metallica movie would be pretty good.
Yeah, I do agree.
But I feel like in order to get like comedic value, sad points,
Mm-hmm.
and just like overall like, you know, like a giant thing, would have to be an Alice in Chains movie. Like you think
Yeah.
about like the last days
Yeah,
of
that would
Lane
be a good
Staley.
Super depressing.
You know, like
Yeah.
how the band was huge and then they
Yeah.
dropped off after their self-titled release and then
Yeah.
they did Unplugged and then Lane died.
Yeah.
Like I think that would be an incredible movie.
Like 6 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you say the same thing with the sad and like happy and comedic value. Metallica would have the same thing. You could have in the beginning stages when like Dave Mustaine used to fuck with Ron McGovney,
Yeah.
you know, and then you also have the build up of like, you know, how great they were getting, and you know, you have the real like hard edge parts where he's getting kicked out of the band as well as
The
Cliff
Cliff.
Burton dying.
And the comedic things would be when Jason Newsted's getting like hazed.
Yeah, dude, and even like you could get into the, I mean, how far would you go really? But even to some kind of monster era where they're like, you know, just a bunch of prissy-
Babies.
Yeah, man. I mean, but
I feel like with a Metallica movie, you'd have to end it like somewhere.
there's so much. Yeah, dude.
Yeah, you'd have to end it probably like
Seattle
after
in '86.
maybe Black Album. I know. The
Yeah, no,
Black
I
Album
get
thing,
what
but
you're
I feel
saying,
like
yeah.
the
No,
Black Album was their height of commercial success, and I feel like that would be a good ending to a movie.
I get you, dude.
Like, here they are, happily ever
Yeah.
after.
So you're saying Alice in Chains though?
Yeah, Alice in Chains.
Connor, what would you do?
I was just thinking about that, and I settled on either Talking Heads or Rage Against the Machine.
Dude, Talking Heads would be awesome.
Yeah, Rage Against the Machine, I felt like they
Rage,
maybe
yeah.
didn't have enough.
It would be a short
Well,
Well, it's
movie.
funny to think like, you know, Tom Morello like went to college for like political science. I mean, he
At
was
Harvard.
yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, so
He
that
went
would
to
be
school with Barack Obama.
Yeah, dude.
Well, yeah, I mean, it would be a crazy movie, but I don't know. It wouldn't be a normal music biopic, but like their personal stories might not like. I don't know. You don't know anything about their personal stories because they're pretty private, but
Yeah.
Talking Heads would definitely be an interesting story because they came
Yeah.
in with like punk and new wave, and then hit the most mainstream success probably of any new wave band, really, and then started feuding, and they don't really get along anymore. There's no hope for a Talking Heads reunion on the horizon. It has been that way since they broke up. Essentially, I think the only time they played was at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction in like 2004.
I feel like that would be an interesting movie.
Yeah, I agree.
What are you thinking, Steven?
So I know there's a movie out. It's called Last Days. Came out in 2005. It's like loosely based on Kurt Cobain by Gus Van Sant.
Yeah.
So remember, me and you also discussed this, Connor, with the book Heavier Than Heaven. They were always
Yeah.
discussing possibly making a movie about that. I think Nirvana,
As
like
a
I'm talking
band.
Nirvana as a band. I mean, obviously you could do it the way Bohemian Rhapsody did, it, surrounded by, you know, the artists themselves being Kurt Cobain in this sense,
Yeah.
and obviously include the band. But you could start at him at a younger age. You know, before he even got into Nirvana, and like when they're just like playing covers at like house parties and stuff. You know,
Yeah.
before Dave even joins the band and stuff, and like leading up to his death, essentially, because that is a story. In a time scale, movie wise, it's short enough time wise in the length of like what a career will be. Like Motley Crue's career is extensive in time. So when they have to limit it to a movie, it's difficult. Even Queen was pretty long. But like Kurt Cobain with Nirvana only having 3 studio lengths come out, you could show the progression quickly between Bleach, Nevermind, and Utero, and then also the same thing with Lane, like the depressing end before he actually died.
Yeah, he wasn't even really messing around in bands or anything in high school. Like, he pretty much started playing music when he was 18.
Yeah.
I mean, he played guitar before that, but like, he pretty much just like watched other people play. He'd like hang around other bands' practices and stuff.
Yeah, but you could also use too and really exploit the idea that when Nevermind hit, you know, the mainstream media, like how much that sincerely changed music, because people will say that, and I don't think people really understand what that did to music.
Oh my god,
in the 90s.
Huge.
It's unbelievable what Nirvana was able to accomplish in such a short period of time. It's just really, it's good. And like the thing about it is too, I mean, you could also explore, you know, like I was saying with, you know, obviously Courtney Love, like when she was dating like Billy Corgan, and you could like go off those little side stories, you know, shit like that. And, you know, there's so many little like added characters you could put into that. You could even, you know, show when like Goo dropped, and like you could even have like a small part where Kurt just wants it to, you know, sell as much as Goo, and like little did he know after the Christmas season how much Nirvana like exploded after that, dude.
Yeah.
You know? And you show them playing like shows in the beginning, like you even see like the videos on YouTube of him fighting on stage and like the SNL and everything, dude.
And a lot of people think, not to make this like a whole big Nirvana thing, but a lot of people think that they kind of blew up after he died, and like they were big. Dude, they were huge before he died. You look at like the sales figures, like Nevermind was already like fucking 6 times platinum or some shit when In Utero dropped. Like.
But I think too, I mean, the grand thing about these movies, going back to The Dirt, Bohemian Rhapsody, even Rocket Man coming out about Elton John.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm
this is a
excited for
great
that.
opportunity. Even with, like we mentioned, Straight Outta Compton, like this is a great opportunity for people to see movies about artists that are slowly being forgotten, with the sense of this new wave of different types of music hitting the scene.
Exactly.
I mean, you go out and see Bohemian Rhapsody. I mean, how many Queen fans? I guarantee you there are new Queen fans solely based on seeing that
they're
movie.
all over the
I
place.
guarantee you there are, you know, Motley Crue fans. Same with like NWA. I mean, how many people probably watched that movie, never even heard the album Straight Outta Compton, but wanted to be relevant, so they're like, oh, I listened to that album before.
Yeah,
But it's because of
exactly.
that movie.
If Nirvana did the biopic shit, it would be crazy,
It would be
because there's
unbelievable. I
already so many
guarantee you
people wearing
record
the
sales-
t-shirts
yeah.
that don't even know anything about
Yeah,
them.
exactly. And it's a shame too, because you have to understand, like, record sales don't get, you know, credit as much anymore, because people are able to use like Spotify, Apple Music, and just stream music, even YouTube. I mean, so you're not able to see like the difference in record sales. But I guarantee you right now, if the only way you were listening to music was purchasing an album, I guarantee you record sales would be a little higher than normal for Motley Crue at this period.
Oh
of time.
yeah.
I'm sure they are, even with
Even
the,
in a
with
small
the,
scale.
with the scales we have in place.
So I think now would be time for obviously our personal suggestions of the week, albums, movies, whatever. Bill.
My suggestion this week is to check out the album Disobey by Bad Wolves. I know I mentioned it earlier in this podcast.
Thing,
it's totally worth a listen. It's amazing. I'm telling you, these guys from New Jersey are nuts. The cover of Zombie's really good. They have another single out called No Masters, which is also an insanely good song. Remember When? That was a really good song. Do yourself a favor and check it out. It's a really, really, really good album.
All right. Connor.
Okay. My selection for this week is the Coos album Party Music. If you haven't heard of him, it's Boots Riley fronts the Coup. He directed Sorry to Bother You. He was in a band with Tom Morello, Street Sweeper Social Club.
Yep.
Political activist, great guy. I actually saw him not too long ago in Philly speaking. That album Party Music is great. It's kind of famous because it had a controversial 9/11 album cover like weeks before 9/11, and they had to like change it. But it's a great album. Coup Party Music. That's COUP.
Nice.
So my recommendation, I'm actually going to see this band May 24th. They're playing with Slayer, Behemoth, as well as Cannibal Corpse. The band is Amon Amarth.
Oh.
Viking metal. Yeah, I mean, obviously you have to have a unique taste to be able to listen to these guys. But my recommendation, they're actually dropping an album May 3rd.
Okay.
So this is the interesting fact, because I know when I'm seeing them, they're probably going to play some of these songs, obviously, for the new album. But they do have one song that was released, as well as a music video. It's called Raven's Flight. give that song a listen. The album is called Berserker. It drops on May 3rd. So that's definitely, check that track out. I'm not a huge fan of the track itself, but that's usually how Amon Amarth is. Usually their most popular songs are not the ones I like, and I don't do that as like a indie type, view. It's just that's
sure
how
you don't,
that
you
band
hipster.
is. Yeah, you know what I mean? I just wear my Doc Martens because it's cool, you know what I mean? It's,
They never go bad.
They never go bad. Lifetime guarantee from Mr. Martin himself before he was a doctor.
All right, so what's our group suggestion for this week?
Connor?
Control, directed by Anton Corbijn, and it's the Joy Division Ian Curtis biopic. So it came out in maybe 2006 or 2007. It's a great movie. It really is one of the best biopics ever made. Anton Corbijn's great. He's done a bunch of stuff. He directed the last music video from Nirvana, Heart Shaped Box. He did the artwork from a Foo Fighters album. He's done a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, Bill, you're the only one that never saw this, right?
No, I have not
definitely
seen
give
this.
that a check out, man. So Neil Young and Control are definitely on your list coming up.
Did
Absolutely.
videos for Depeche Mode.
Yeah.
Recently, Coldplay, Viva La Vida. So yeah, he's pretty serious.
Yeah, and going in with the idea of Joy Division, obviously they were like part of that post-punk scene. Ian Curtis, it's really focused around him as well as the band, but it's pretty much leading up until his death, suicide. Actually, right before they were about to tour in the United States, which is interesting because they got actually a huge notoriety, especially underground, and then bigger because Unknown Pleasures. If you even watch the movie 500 Days of Summer, I mean, you'll see, what's his face, Jason Gordon-Levitt wearing the shirt at one point in time. It's like actually a shirt I see a lot of people
That's
wearing.
probably what kickstarted
Yeah,
it.
dude, and it's like that's another thing with like band tees. We're not even going to get into that discussion, but yeah, I mean that's that first album, Unknown Pleasures, and then Closer, and then obviously the single Love Will Tear Us Apart. There's a lot of great tracks by that band. But it's funny because Connor, you showed me that movie, and before, like I had listened to them, and then you actually showed me the movie, and I found a new appreciation for that band because of that movie, and I was able to go back and listen to like really thoroughly listen to that band, and now I sincerely enjoy listening to Joy Division.
Oh, one of the greatest bands of all time.
I'm not going to go that far.
I would.
Okay. I bet.
All right, well, I guess that wraps it up for this week, guys. Once again, thank you for listening. Thank you for your continued support. We really appreciate this. Your support helps us. Listen, like, download, subscribe, comment, whatever. Write to us, talk to us. We want to hear from you. This is Rage Against the Mainstream signing off. I'm Bill.
I'm Steve.
I'm Connor.
Have a good night, everyone. Thank you for listening.